downtown Friday as well. Alabama gets in to the tournament as a 4 seed, despite losing in the SEC quarterfinals. The Tide is 21-11.
Not everybody gets to do this. You look at the quality of teams that were left out of the tournament. There's a lot of good players not playing anymore. There's a lot of good teams not playing. So regardless of where we get sent, we're excited to go there. Spokane, we've had good runs out west.
Bama plays, guess what day? Friday against Charleston. Guess where? Spokane, Washington.
Sanford, who was in for the first time since 2000.
Sanford loved hearing its name called out yesterday with a selection show party in downtown Homewood. The Bulldogs, a 13th seed, will play Kansas for the first time in the first round Thursday night in Charlotte, North Carolina.
We want to win. We go into every game thinking we're going to win. That's no different here. We're winners, we're competitors. We're going to go out there and compete and give it our all.
The Bulldogs secured its place 10 days ago, winning the SoCon tourney, beating East Tennessee State in the final, 76-69. The Bulldogs go dancing with a 29-5 record, first time since the year 2000. Well, if you're trying to figure out exactly how to fill out one of these brackets right here, you may want to know that UConn is the overall top seed for the men. And the other number ones are Houston, Purdue, and North Carolina. So we mentioned the men. What about the women's version of the big dance? The Crimson Tide ladies making its 13th appearance in an 8 seed and opens up with Florida State. Auburn gets in. The Lady Tigers, part of the first 4, will battle Arizona on Thursday. Winner advances to play Syracuse. The overall top seed for the women is undefeated South Carolina, with the other number 1 seeds Iowa, USC, and Texas. Since our last meeting, a little news to mention. Alabama Athletic Director Greg Byrne announcing that the school and Nate Oates reached an agreement that would keep the 4th-year head coach with the program for the considerable future. Well, and as for our panel of players, they have some experience in the big dance. Mo Finley at UAB, Richard Hendrix played for the Crimson Tide at Alabama, and Bart Hyche, well, he could play the round ball at Mississippi State. I want to quickly mention that the UAB women also going to postseason play. They've been invited to play in the women's NIT, so I guess Alabama basically is a hoop state now. Go on ahead and fill out your brackets. Have a great week, everybody.
Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody to our March 18th meeting of the Greater Birmingham Tip-Off Club. Much has happened since we were last together. Last time, if you recall, we were congratulating Sanford on their regular season title. And then, of course, last week, they added the SoCon tournament title to their resume as well. The Miles College women won the SIAC tournament for the very first time. So that was a big accomplishment over in Fairfield. Of course, UAB won in their very first year in the American Athletic Conference, ran through that tournament with 3 double-digit victories, impressive performance by the Blazers, and of course Auburn winning their second title in the last 5 SEC tournaments in convincing fashion as well. In addition, we had another eventful Final Four with the high schools. Several local winners there. Hoover won the 7A boys and girls, and then Fairfield boys won in the 5A. Had a great week. Saw many of you there throughout the week. A lot of fun down at Legacy Arena, and we always look forward to that. At our last meeting, of course, we had the panelists, the 3 members of the NCAA men's basketball committee, and of course, Charles McClellan, the chair, who was on CBS yesterday, and then Greg Byrne and Martin Newton. So it was great to have those guys. Kind of wish we had them today because I know you guys would have some questions for them. We were talking about that outside, but love to hear them explain some of their moves over the weekend. So, and today we've got a really interesting program, I think. It's an NCAA tournament preview. We've got 3 guys, as Sheldon mentioned, that played in the tournament. Bart Hyche at Mississippi State went to the Final Four. Richard Hendrix at Alabama. Mo Finley at UAB. All 3 continue to stay involved with the game as analysts and broadcasters And so they'll have great opinions about what's coming ahead and what just happened in the past week and what's coming in the week ahead. So we look forward to hearing from our panelists, and we hope that Kevin Scarbinsky is going to roll in here about 12:07. We'll see. If not, they can carry on without him, but we sure like to have Kevin here. And then next Monday is going to be very interesting. We've got Andy Kennedy from UAB. Should be a great time to have Andy, having just won his tournament, and he'll give us an update on how his weekend went in Spokane. So Andy Kennedy will close out our season next week. So be sure and be with us Monday to hear what Coach Kennedy has to say. He'll talk about the Blazers season, the tournament, the conference tournament, the NCAA tournament, and he'll also put on his old analyst hat and preview the Sweet 16, which he may be a part of. So that'll be a great program next week. Okay, I'll call on at this time Anthony Kingston. Anthony, if you'd come forward. Anthony's a club member who helped us out at the state tournament, as he does every year. He and his wife host a team, and Anthony, if you'll lead us in our invocation and pledge. Sure, come on.
All right, let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, again, we thank you for the many blessings you've given us, Lord. Just ask you to be with us, watch over, protect us, Lord. We thank you for the chance to come together in fellowship and enjoy time amongst each other. Now we ask you to bless those that prepared our food and bless the food to our bodies. In Christ's name we pray, amen. And we'll stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thanks, Anthony. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Anthony. And Kevin, don't sit down. Keep walking. Our Hall of Fame sports writer and MC for the Tip-Off Club, who always does a spectacular job, Kevin Scarbinsky. Come on up. Without breaking stride, right?
Thank you, Dick. I like to hit the ground running. Good afternoon, everyone. Let's have some fun today. First of all, who can tell me what school this fight song belongs to? Na 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 na. Go State! Why did I do that? I don't know, it just felt like fun. But also, because NC State just made an incredible run in its conference tournament to win the ACC, get to the big dance, because Jim Valvano authored the greatest Cinderella story in the tournament's history, and because our own Andy Kennedy started his college basketball career at NC State before, fortunately for all of us, transferring to UAB to play for the great Gene Bartow. This is a great month. I am so excited about what we're going to see, what we've already seen over the last week, what we're going to see over the next 3 weeks. The fact that we have 4 teams in the NCAA tournament for just the second time. The second time in 3 years, I might add, to tell you where basketball is in this state. There's only one other state in this country that has more teams in the NCAA tournament field. Anybody want to take a guess? Anybody know who it is? Texas. How many does Texas have? 6. Texas has 6. Alabama has 4. We should all be very, very proud of that fact. As well as the fact that our 2 SEC teams in this state, Auburn and Alabama, have won 4 of the last 5 SEC tournaments. Think about that. 4 of the last 5 SEC tournaments. That's pretty impressive. Not bad for what some people think of as a state associated with another sport whose name shall go unmentioned by me. If you're looking for tips in filling out your bracket, does anyone know a team that has won its first round game in 11 consecutive trips to the NCAA tournament? I don't know about Gonzaga. I think I heard someone else say it. It's a little closer to home. Auburn, which will be playing in Spokane, Washington, the home of Gonzaga, on Friday, along with Alabama and UAB. And this is the kind of crazy stuff I do. That's why I get like 2 hours sleep a night. So after seeing the bracket, and after seeing Auburn, UAB, and Alabama all dispatched to Spokane, Washington, and Samford sent to Salt Lake City, and wondering how a committee that includes 3 men from the state of Alabama on it could do that to us, to the collective group of basketball fans in this state, I started doing I did something dangerous. I did some math. Actually, I just got on one of those driving distance calculators online. So I calculated the driving distance for every one of the 68 teams in the NCAA tournament. It's right there. It's on my Twitter if you want to look at it more closely, at Kevin Scarbinsky. So of these 68 teams, our 4 state teams are among the 8 teams that have the longest road to travel. Auburn's number 4, 2,468 miles to Spokane. UAB's number 5, 2,358 miles to Spokane. Alabama's number 6, 2,294 miles to Spokane. And Samford's number 8, 1,819 miles to Salt Lake City. We're going to have a conversation with Greg Byrne, Martin Newton, and Dr. Charles McClelland at some point about that. Also, because this is my hobby, of the 8 SEC teams in the field, I don't even think I have to ask which 2 teams from the league have the longest road to travel. It's Alabama and Auburn. The next longest trip for an SEC team in this tournament is Florida, which has to go a whopping 865 miles to Indianapolis. So Alabama and Auburn have to travel more than twice as far as any other team in the SEC to get to their first round site. Well, what about the number 4 seeds? Because the Tide and Tigers are 4 seeds, right? There are 4 seeds. Kansas, which is going to lose to Samford on Thursday night in Salt Lake City. They have to go 1,072 miles. And the other number 4 seed, this will shock no one, Duke, has to travel a whopping 486 miles to Brooklyn. Tell me which of those 4 teams, Duke, Kansas, Auburn, and Alabama, do you think is going to go farther in this NCAA tournament? All in-state bias aside. John Shire ain't Mike Krzyzewski. Okay? And Hunter Dickinson is not going to play for Kansas, which is good for Samford. And I'm telling you right now, I don't like to make predictions, but I occasionally will make exceptions. And if you read my column today in the Birmingham Lead, you know what I'm about to say. I have been to 17 Final Fours. I have seen a lot of different teams make the Final Four and 17 different teams win the national championship. I see a team from this state that has everything you need to win it all, and that's the Auburn Tigers. And I fully expect that the team that broke the glass ceiling in this state by becoming the first to get to the Final Four is going to take that last step up that final ladder and cut down that last net. And remember when Bruce Pearl was here? And I told him he had to get back to another Final Four because the first time he went, You know, I'd spent my entire career dreaming of the day when one team from Alabama would get to the Final Four, and I could be there to see it. And when it happened in 2019 in Minneapolis, I couldn't go because my younger son, Cannon, in his first and last track meet in middle school, broke his hip in the high jump. And he had a brace on that made him look like the Terminator. Drew, you remember. So I wasn't able to make that trip. So I told Bruce, listen, Bruce, I kind of like the sport of basketball. I'd like to see a team from the state of Alabama again in the Final Four. And he said, well, you remember if you were here, right, Kevin, I'm going to be at the Final Four. I don't know if my team will be, but I'm going to be there. I think he, Chad Baker-Mazzara, Janai Broom, Jalen Williams, et cetera, are going to be in the Final Four. But if you have any questions about what the NCAA thinks of Bruce Pearl, not only did the committee send him to Spokane, Washington for the first 2 rounds, where he's going to play UAB in the second round. And Mo Finley knows this as well as anyone. UAB is going to have a chip on its shoulder if that game happens. Because Bruce is largely responsible for the end of the UAB-Auburn series. Well, it goes back to Cliff Ellis. Because he was upset because, any number of games were played in Birmingham. And Cliff said, wait a minute, this is an imbalance. We gotta balance this out. And Bruce did play UAB a few times, but that series needs to come back, and it's going to come back on Sunday in Spokane, Washington. All right? So Bruce has got to get by Andy Kennedy, who he's competed against in the SEC. And then after he does that, he has to take Auburn to Boston to play defending champion UConn in the Sweet 16. And when they win that game, they're probably going to have to play Iowa State, one of the top 6 teams in Ken Pom. And by the way, in the last 20 years, only 2 national champions have not been in the top 6 in Ken Pom rankings at the end of the conference tournaments. UConn in 2011 and 2014. Everyone else, for the last 20 years, every national champion has been in that top 6. Auburn is number 4. Not a 4 seed, number 4 overall, behind UConn, Purdue, Houston, followed by Iowa State and Arizona. And then after they win that, they win the regional, they get to the Final Four. Where's the Final Four this year? Phoenix, Arizona. Guess who they would play, or very likely would play, in the national semifinals? The University of Arizona. Because it wasn't hard enough 5 years ago to beat let's get it in order. Kansas, North Carolina, and Kentucky to get to the Final Four. But never, ever give Bruce Pearl motivation. That's what the committee did. Man, I like the Tigers going forward. All right, where are we? I could talk all day about the NCAA tournament. I got more fun facts if you're interested. But next, the inimitable, the legend, the Gene Bartow of the Birmingham Tip-Off Club, Jim Conrad.
Well, I only came 10 miles to get here, so I'm here. Last Tuesday morning, I was riding to work and I was listening to Sirius FX Channel 84, the college sports channel, that includes as its host Rick Neuheiser. And they were talking that morning about the tournament, and they were very excited that Samford University from Birmingham, Alabama, was in the tournament. One of the first teams because they won on Monday night. And Rick Neuheiser, who you would know as a football coach, his claim to fame in basketball was, you may not remember this, but I did, when he was at the University of Washington as a football coach, and he was a good football coach, but he participated in a neighborhood pool of picking a bracket. He was investigated by the NCAA, and it was ruled that he violated the gambling rule. He actually ended up being fired by the University of Washington on that incident. So that was his connection to basketball. But he said that nationwide radio broadcasts, he said, you know, I've got a good friend down there in Birmingham, Frank Bromberg, and I bet he is excited about Sanford being in the tournament. Now, Frank is a member of the club, and unfortunately, he's not here today. But anyway, to me, Frank was an Alabama fan, but I'm sure he was excited about Sanford. I mean, we all were excited about Sanford. And to prove it, I happened to sit at a table at a basketball meeting of another club, and I happened to sit with Frank and some of his friends. And one of his friends said, Frank, what's going on with the new basketball arena in Alabama? I hadn't heard much about it. And he said, well, I got a call from Greg Byrne about 2 weeks ago, and he asked me to increase my donation to the new arena. And he said, I told Greg, between donating money to the new arena, basketball arena, and the NIL, I don't have any money to buy tickets. Anyway, that's Frank. I wish he was here. All right, we're going to get to our picks. All right. The loser, oh, incidentally, one of our members, Jim Turnipseed, has had the bricks with a little plaque on it, so you'll get to keep it. So, now Jim, if you lose, this doesn't get you out of keeping the brick, but anyway. So, thank you, Jim, for that. So, the loser, well, I'm going to go third from the bottom, Anthony Kingston, who gave our prayer. Scotty Colson, back there in the back, 50%. But the loser, Greg Waycaster, at 30%. Where's Greg? Please come forward. All right. Now, this is great because you get to keep this with your plaque. You can put it on your desk. And so congratulations, Greg. Thank you. All right. Now to the winner. The winner will get an autographed basketball. I'm going to leave it on the table because our panel will be there and they can autograph it. One of our best pickers, he's third, is Mike Moore with 76%. And who's second? From the top, Frank Bromberg. Not here. I wish he'd been here. It'd been a great day for him. Anyway, but the winner is Jimmy Weigel. Second time he's won. Jimmy, stand up. He's won and he's lost this year. So, Jimmy, tell you what, if you'll get the ball and then come down at the end of the program and we'll get it all signed up. Okay. That's for me, and that's the end of it for Frank Burma.
Thank you, Jim. Of course, you know, Frank and fucking Bill go way back. Are they make so much, are they related? In some way? Godfather, okay. Hey, Frank graduated at Carolina. Well, don't hold that against me. But Frank is a huge Sanford supporter, obviously, since fucking got the job. And usually on Sanford game night,
Thank you, thank you. If y'all saw me walk up, it's a little different today. When did we start this club? In 73? Have we ever had twins win the award? We're going for a twofer today. We have two twins that are winning this award today, Jamiria and Tamiria Jones. They're joined by their coach, Lynn Slater. She has been coaching for 18 years overall, 11 years as a head coach at Huffman High School. Her overall record, 321 and 179. She's a two-time Coach of the Year, has led Huffman to 8 area championships, 8 Sweet 16s, 5 Elite Eights, 3 Final Fours, 2 state runner-ups last 2 years, and this is pretty impressive too. The last 9 consecutive years, she's had seniors go to college on basketball scholarship. So we're going to start off with Jamiria today. She has a 3.85 grade point average. She was this season was Area 11 All-Tournament Team, Northeast Region All-Tournament Team, State Finals All-Tournament Team, and First Team All-State, which was just announced this weekend, right? I think I just saw that. Okay. Averaged 19.9 points, 9.5 rebounds, 2.1 assists, 3 steals, was played in the Alabama-Mississippi All-Star Game, back-to-back state championship game appearances, and she has signed to play collegiately at Georgia Southern. Her sister, Tamiria, has a 4.08 grade point average. When I was in high school, I didn't know it went above 4. She also made the Area 11 All-Tournament Team, Northeast Region All-Tournament Team, State Finals All-Tournament Team, and was third team All-State. Her season averages 14.8 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 4 steals, was also a back-to-back championship game appearance, and also signed to play with Georgia Southern. So just a little comment from their coach. Both are hardworking kids who go above and beyond to be successful. They both spend countless hours in the gym working on their game to be program changers. They've been a joy to coach, and both have helped take Huffman Girls High School basketball program to new heights. Your players of the week, Jamiria and Tamiria Jones. I'm gonna get this right too, right? Jamiria? Yes, all right, see? Jamiria? All right. Just real quick.
I'd like to thank the Birmingham Tip-Off Club for just acknowledging us for our accomplishments and our hard work, and yeah.
I just want to give all glory to God and thank the Birmingham Tip-Off Club for the opportunity.
Let me just say that watching outstanding young people like Tamiria and Jamiria the last couple of years has been why being part of the AHSA state finals with Alabama Public Television has been such a joy for me. And I got to say, Coach Slater, I haven't seen a more frightening scowl on the sideline since we've seen it. You scared me, and I was just watching from the corner.
All right. Are we on? Hello. All right. I don't even need notes for these guys. I took a lot of notes, but I don't know why. Because I've been fortunate to know each of these gentlemen for years. You've known them as well. You've seen them excel in high school in this state and then do so on the college level. And we especially wanted to have them here today because they each have had memorable NCAA tournament experiences. Let's go in chronological order because you're the oldest, Bart. And Bart Hyche in 1996 played on the first and last Mississippi State team and any team from the state of Mississippi to reach the Final Four.
Can you say that again?
The first and only team from the state of Mississippi to reach the Final Four. Bart was the sixth man on a Bulldogs team that featured another star from Alabama, Darrell Wilson, in his final year. And you guys shocked the world, won the SEC tournament first, beat the Kentucky team that would go on to win the national championship in the SEC final. Bart, the sharpshooter from Winfield, came off the bench, was a key contributor. I still remember I got to watch them play every game in that tournament. You won 2 games in Indianapolis, beat Sonny Smith and VCU, and we know Sonny's, we'll get you to talk about Sonny and how important he was to you and how you might have been an Auburn Tiger had things been different.
Absolutely.
So that's Bart Hyche. And Bart, just
tell me
quick,
what you want, man. I got a lot of.
I know
Tell me
you
what
got a
want.
lot. Give us one quick memory of that run to the Final Four.
I remember it. I felt like it all started. We lost 4 out of 5 during the SEC season, and league conference seasons are so tough. And I just remember everybody had to get their self out of the way. When we did, we actually went to Auburn, and Dante Jones just became Dante Jones, like literally overnight. And I just remember Darrell Wilson, and we were about to play Kentucky. Obviously, it's kind of like if you go to any golf course and you play well, you like this great golf course. If you play well, if you shoot the basketball well and have good experiences at Memorial Gym like me, it's by far my favorite in the SEC. Don't ever change it, right? Good experiences. But when Darrell, he got up in the locker room and we believed, but that Kentucky team had 7 first-round picks. You tell me, is that Alabama football? Is that Georgia football? That team had 7 first-round picks. Mark Pope, who's in this tournament, was number 27 pick for the Heat. And I just remember walking up to Jeff Shepard, and trying to mess with him and literally walking up. They had them denim uniforms. And the memory I have is, man, just let me touch that denim. Can I just touch that? How much is that stuff, man? And just that type of stuff. Those are true stories I remember. But I just remember Darrell talking in the SEC tournament, and after we beat Kentucky, being a family, sitting together, watching that tournament in the selection show in the Superdome, didn't care where we went. We didn't care. But the memory of the whole run, to be quite honest, a lot of it's a blur still. It just happens so fast. You're 18 years old. You just play the next play. And we were so focused on what we were doing. I hadn't always been like that, but during that run I was. And so it was magical, And my dad, my late father, I'll never forget Big Joe Hyche. He looked at me and said, hey, there's two times in my life I remember him getting teary-eyed. And I remember when I committed to Mississippi State, and he said, they didn't want you, son, but that Mississippi State signee name will always be with you. And then when we went to the Final Four, he said, you just became legendary, you don't even know it. And I played 5 minutes in that game. That's the power of the Final Four. It really and truly is.
You scored, but in that Elite Eight game, you scored 5 points in those 5 minutes against Cincinnati and Bob Huggins.
I did, and the Sonny game was very special because Sonny Smith taught me how to shoot the basketball. A lot of people know this story. I wanted to go to Auburn. I grew up an Auburn fan. I never missed an Auburn football game that Bo Jackson played, that Brent Fullwood played, that Quentin Riggins played. I went to every one home and away, my dad and I. But these guys know, you have aspirations, and, the Lord sometimes just directs it different, whether you know it at the time or not. But it all worked out the way it did. And to beat VCU and it be Sonny, and my dad and Sonny were always such good friends, and then to beat Princeton the next game, who backcut UCLA into the second round.
Which was the defending national champion.
Which was the defending national champion, and that had beaten Mississippi State the year before, Darrell and those guys before I got there. But then to beat Ray Allen, the next game in Lexington, and then to go through Huggins, and just all of a sudden you get back, just Golden Triangle Airport, and there's people hanging off the top of the airport. It was a big deal. And so all those memories are just, they're like a fine wine. They get better with age, for sure.
It was definitely a lot of fun to be along for that ride. Again, going in chronological order, a few years later in 2004, under Coach Mike Anderson, the UAB Blazers went on a run, beat Washington in the first round 102-100 to advance to a second round game against the #1 overall seed in the tournament, Kentucky. And just an aside, Mo Finley, that year, and I still can't believe the Birmingham News actually let me do this, I got to see on a Saturday in Seattle, Washington, Alabama beat #1 seed Stanford, caught the red eye to Chicago, connected to Columbus, Ohio, so the next afternoon I could watch this gentleman, Mo Finley, hit a jumper to beat Kentucky, the #1 overall seed in the tournament. And I'll never forget your backcourt mate, Carl Dell, Squeaky Johnson, afterward in the locker room, said, Kentucky's not used to losing to guys named Squeaky and Mo. Mo, what do you remember?
Well, before I get into that, I got to go back to you a little bit. So my brother-in-law was a grad assistant at Mississippi State at the time, and I have literally every VHS from the tournament run. Now, my wife wants me to get that crap out of our house. So if you don't have it,
I got a guy.
Yeah,
I got a guy.
I can get some of that to you, man, because my wife is sick of those boxes. And I keep telling her, like, these are my memories. This is where my dream started, and she's not hearing it. But, Kentucky, they weren't used to losing to anyone. And so I think for us, what I remember the most is just not being so focused on the name on front of the jersey. We were just thinking we're going to do what we do. That's something Coach Anderson preached throughout the year, and we just were really focused on kind of doing our thing and playing hard for each other. We'd been fairly good that season, and we thought we had something pretty special. And we had a chance to get together, I guess, a few months ago with our 20th anniversary. And so just a great memory. I think one of the things that makes March so special is that you get a chance to do it. You don't realize it when you're doing it because you're so young, but now that you're older and you've had a chance to reflect, you realize just how special the moment is and how a lot of people just don't get a chance to do that and participate. And so, like I said, as a kid, I grew up watching Mississippi State make their run. And so I thought to myself, if I ever get on a team, if I can participate and be a part of it, I'm going to give it my all. And we did that. We had a great time, had a great group of guys, and just a magical time.
Not a bad way to go out as a senior, was it?
Well, it would have been better to make it to the Final Four, but you got to take what you can get. We ran up against a buzzsaw in Kansas, so.
You should have said he was giving folks buckets at Mississippi State camp coming out of high school. I remember, Mo was over at Mississippi State camp at Starkville, and I just always assumed he was from Starkville because he just kept coming through all those years, and so, yeah, he might remember that, but I remember him, because it all starts there. Yeah. So our relationship actually went back to Mississippi State camp when Mo was
My brother-in-law could get me in for free, so I was always there hanging out on campus.
I guess we all got a Mo Finley story.
Everybody did go.
And, when I came in, the first thing I had to tell him is me and my dad, who's here, we used to go every year to the Final Four in high school and watch. And one of my biggest memories was when Mo was in high school as a senior, I believe. They were competing for the state championship at Lafayette High School. 41 points in the state championship game and the MVP in a loss. I'd never seen a player, incredible, hitting threes, taking it to the basket. You at that point, you watch teams just kind of step up and play. You don't know who's playing next. They get 15 minutes to warm up, and here's this guy just coming out there just getting buckets in the semifinal. Goes for 41 against another Mississippi State guy, Mario Alston with Sumter County High School in the championship game. Just a memory that I will never forget. So it wasn't surprising to see him do what he did at UAB and lead the Blazers to the Sweet 16 in an upset over Kentucky.
Nor was it a surprise to see what you, Richard Hendrix, did at the University of Alabama. I remember being there at Athens High School when you announced your college decision. And Richard was so highly sought after, I think it came down to North Carolina and Alabama, and you chose to stay home, which I know people in this room especially appreciate. But your freshman year at Alabama, and this is, I think, a great example of how fleeting this can be. Richard's a freshman power forward starting. Ronald Steele is a sophomore point guard, and you're thinking, these guys are going to be in the Final Four at some point during their careers playing together. Richard's freshman year, You go to San Diego,
Correct.
beat Marquette in the first round, and then you come up against UCLA. Obviously, home crowd advantage for the Bruins. It's a tight game, back and forth. Take it from there, Richard.
Well, you know, unlike their experience, as you mentioned, you know, coming to the University of Alabama, we had a lot of talent on the team and be a highly rated recruit. You know, my goal and dream was always to go to Alabama and take the Alabama program, be a part of going to the next level. The seasons before, they just coming off being the #1 team in the country. 2003, won an SEC championship. In 2002, in 2004, they went to the highest finish they ever had in the Elite Eight. So in 2006, after going to the 5th straight NCAA tournament, we had a very talented team. Had some injuries. Chuck Davis, our leading scorer, went down in the season, who was the best power forward on that team that went to the Elite Eight. So we had a lot of adjusting that we had to make, but we finally kind of limped into the NCAA tournament as a 10 seed, but with a lot of confidence. And we played a 7 seed Marquette team in the opening round, and I don't know if people will remember this game, but there was a bomb threat in the building that happened right before the game, so we had to sit and wait for hours before we could even go into the gym to get ready to play the game. But in that game, you might remember a teammate of mine, John Felix, who went off for 31 points in that game after we waited, won the game. But more than anything I took away from that NCAA tournament experience is that you get an opportunity for a second life, and the slate is wiped clean for so many teams, and you get to be to the part of the big dance. It's something about coming together as a team, even if you're coming off of a losing streak, somehow having hope and getting it together. That was a team that we got it together in that first game, overwhelmed Marquette, and then played another UCLA team that ended up going to the national championship, a run of 3 straight Final Fours that they had, led by Jordan Farmar and Aaron Aflalo. Nick Collison was on that team, 4 or 5 or 6 NBA guys on that roster. Come down to the last second, we miss a 3-pointer that could have won the game to move on to the Sweet 16. But I agree with you, it was a mentality that you thought with the roster that we had, the players, the youth, myself, Alonzo G, Ronald Steele, that we thought the next year was going to be Final Four and national championships. But you start to see, and as you mentioned, as a young player, you don't understand the moment. And to think that it's just going to be guaranteed that you're going to be in the NCAA tournament the next year and the next year and beyond, it makes you realize to never take for granted the opportunity that you have to play tournament basketball and in March and leave it all out there on the floor. And that was something that carried over for me when I got into playoff basketball as a professional, that you never have an opportunity to compete for a championship, and when you do, you better try your best to seize the moment.
And shockingly, that first round game that you won against Marquette in 2006, Alabama did not win another NCAA tournament game for 12 years after that. It's amazing to think about. What I want to know, though, is what are your memories of watching the selection show that year, 1996 for you, Bart? You already know you're in the tournament. You've beaten Kentucky. Now, it was on a Sunday, though. You beat Kentucky on Sunday, and then the selection show was not that long afterward.
Hour.
Because, the SEC tournament championship game started a little later then. What was that like? I mean, just that whirl of emotions. You've just beaten Kentucky. You've won the SEC tournament, and now you're about to find out where you're going.
It was a little bit different than watching it from the Boar's Butt in Winfield restaurant. Then that's where I'd always watched it. So like it was, we're like, where are we going? We're going up. Okay, it's the experience. But to Richard's point, I never went back. And when you get there your freshman year, you think you're going back 12 times, much less 4. But I remember, I'll tell you this, Kevin, my senior year, we got snubbed. And Tyrone Washington, my brother, my roommate, my teammate, we came in together. And we were the only 2 mainstays all 4 years from that Final Four team that played together. And his grandmother had passed away. And so we had gone to his house in Indianola, and they had the panel in Starkville at Coach Stanz's house. But we weren't there because we were in Indianola. I remember that one more than I remember the New Orleans one. The New Orleans, like I said, I was 18 years old and just had hair. So and it was good hair. But it was just, I know this sounds crazy, but just to the point Mo made, Coach Williams had us in a mindset. And the other thing was, I knew if I didn't do what Marcus Bullard told me to do on and off the court as my roommate, that I just wasn't going to be a good day. And that's just kind of how it was. So it's about that same page. It's about flipping the switch. But I remember just, it was just so cool to know that you had kind of arrived. As a not necessarily teams, but as a freshman from Winfield, Alabama, to play in the SEC, everybody always told me I wasn't going to do that. Y'all know that. Everybody told me that. That's why I played basketball instead of one of the other sports I was better at. And that's a true story, because I was going to prove that to people. But sitting in there, that feeling is like they said, you can't. You don't know when it's going to come back, and you have to be able to bless the Lord for allowing you to experience that. And no, I didn't appreciate it in the moment. So appreciate it in the moment, Tam Jam. Y'all liked that nickname, didn't you? It was pretty good. And they can play. But you have to. And I'm sorry to get, kind of fired up about stuff. But yeah, man, I mean, it brings back those feelings for sure.
Mo, what about for you? The year before at UAB, Coach Anderson's first year, I believe, you made a run in the NIT. And again, a personal aside, and this is why I love this sport, because it's taken me places and allowed me to get to know gentlemen like these. In 2003, a month after my first son, Kaiser, whose sneakers I'm wearing, was born, UAB plays Siena in Albany, New York, beats them. I get to cover that game. Then you play St. John's, one game away from the NIT Final Four, in their Cracker Box on-campus gym, and came up a little short. And then Auburn, I got to stay there because Auburn played in the Sweet 16 against Syracuse and Carmelo Anthony, and Marquise Daniels destroyed the 2-3 Jim Boeheim zone, took them to overtime, but Syracuse prevailed. And again, that's just another great memory for me. But for you guys in 2004, now again, it's your last year.
Right.
You're finally in the NCAA tournament. Do you remember anything special about Selection Sunday?
Well, not Selection Sunday. Well, a couple of things. First, so Coach Anderson, a few weeks prior, we went out to dinner, and they were discussing the bracket online, on the television. And all of us, we were sitting there discussing it. Oh, man, how are they getting in? We were all just going off being, Joe Lenardi and all the people that you hear. We're discussing it as if we actually know. And so I remember Coach Anderson coming over to the table and just saying, shut up, like you've never been in it. I've been in it, I've won it, you don't know. And I remember thinking, okay, like he's kind of right, because we had, the year before, we played in the NIT. And prior to that, I played on some pretty talented teams in terms of ability. Now, that didn't always translate to our record, but we were good teams, we were good players. And I remember just feeling very, very apprehensive after he had that conversation, because at the time, we were playing well. And for him to come and say, shut up, like you don't know what you're talking about, to all of us, like, well, maybe we're not getting in, like we might not be getting in. Like, it kind of freaked me out a little bit. And so Selection Sunday, I remember when they made the announcement, I didn't react. I didn't scream, I didn't yell, I didn't cheer. I just sort of kind of shook my head, and I remember thinking, well, we've never been in it. We haven't won it. And so kind of, not to be an idiot about it, but I was like, well, we haven't done anything yet. We still got to go play, we got to go win, and we probably have to still prove that we deserve to be in. And that year, Conference USA, we got 6 teams in. And we had a really good conference that year. That's when Conference USA was still, pretty good. And so I just remember, kind of like, what we're saying, you don't realize that it can all be over in a couple of days. And if I could do it over again, I probably would go and celebrate a little bit. Now, I'm sure I probably, maybe smiled a little bit, but I did not cheer. You see the crowds where they're jumping up and down and celebrating. Coach Anderson, he scared that out of me, man, when he told us at that Outback that you haven't been in it, you don't know. Shut up. So I did not enjoy the moment as much as I probably should have.
And of course, Mike Anderson, a favorite son of Birmingham, had been the right-hand man to Nolan Richardson at Arkansas when they won the 1994 national championship in Charlotte. And I almost got hauled away by the Secret Service. Bill Clinton was in the locker room. I bumped into him by mistake. Luckily, I didn't get hauled away, but another personal memory. Richard, what about in 06? Again, as you said, you're a 10 seed. Was there doubt about getting in? Was it relief when you saw that you were in?
You know, the funny thing is that we had such a team that had older guys, but we had a lot of young guys. And on that team, I don't think people remember, it seems like 2006 is a long time ago, but we only had 7 scholarship players at one point in time in that season. And 3 of our starters were freshmen, and then a sophomore, and then a junior with Jamario Davidson. But on that roster, when we were watching the selection show, there was a feeling from some members on the team, freshmen, I know names to not understand what was going on here. You know, you go into the NCAA tournament and you don't really understand, once again, like, what are we doing? We're in a tournament, but you're just happy you got another game. But the moment that you did find out that you're in the tournament, and for us as a team that coming down the stretch of the season, we had beaten Tennessee at home, which was a top 10 team, LSU, who won the conference that year, Florida, and was Florida's last loss that they had before running off 10 games in a row to win the national championship. We were full of confidence just because we knew we were talented and could win games. So when the announcement was made that we were playing Marquette, it was no disrespect to Marquette, but that was a game that we all felt like we can win this game. And the thing about it is when you get into the tournament, I know you guys know how this feels as well. Once you get that first win under your belt, there's this momentum that you have and this hope that you have that you feel, oh man, we've won 1, we can win 2, we can win 3. And you start looking past the next opponent and thinking, okay, if this matchup happens, we can find ourselves in the Final Four. But it's once again like the moment of the situation in NCAA tournament, Final Four, March Madness, is that it's hard to be in the moment, but at the same time, it's this feeling that you are focused on every single play because it becomes magnified. Every missed shot, every turnover, every missed opportunity, every foul that you get in and get in foul trouble, you find yourself in a situation where you feel like this is a lot heavier than it was just a couple of weeks ago in the season, and you know it's going to be all over. But it was also the same type of feeling that you kind of felt on Selection Sunday. That's like, hey, now you got a game. Let's get excited about it. But you also have the quick turnaround that you go right to work immediately from the coaching staff, breaking down film and even getting onto the practice court. So it's happened so quickly that you have to be mentally prepared.
I'm interested in how your coaches approached that week, from seeing the bracket, knowing who you're going to play, because you hear coaches a lot say that first game often is the most difficult. You were coached by Richard Williams, who always had a chip on his shoulder, deservedly so, to be polite.
That's the understatement of the day.
I got to know Richard because I picked, one year before that, Mississippi State had this veteran lineup returning, and a lot of people were predicting that they would do well in the regular season in the SEC. Well, I had to predict the order of finish, and we had to do a chart, so which meant I had to have a very brief comment along with the choice. And my choice comment about Mississippi State was experienced losers. It didn't come out the way it should have. It was a terrible thing for me to say. However, it turned out to be a good thing because that day that the paper came out, I got a phone call from Richard Williams, whom I had never spoken to before, and then became close with. He was part, of course, with John Brady and Dwayne Reboll and all of those guys. What was it like, though, that week in preparation? You're playing VCU. Sonny Smith was at VCU, of course. He took Auburn to its first 5 NCAA tournaments in a row, which is pretty extraordinary. What was it like that week of preparation?
Well, that would have been like Kevin Scarbinsky, Richard Williams. I'd like to know what you meant by that experienced losers comment. Because he wasn't real happy when they put Ole Miss on the back of our hats going to the Final Four neither, if anybody remembers that.
Tell that story. That was in Lexington, Kentucky, Rupp Arena. State has just beaten Cincinnati, UConn in the Sweet 16, wow. Cincinnati in the Elite 8, and you get the championship hats or the Final Four hats. It didn't say Mississippi State on the hats.
No, and the thing about it was, y'all just got to know him. His demeaning acumen to people is elite. I'll just say it like that. So like that week, how was it? You didn't talk to him. I mean, you just hoped he didn't talk to you. Like during prep, I mean, it was so intense, and he was just so uptight all the time. And like, he's a math teacher, math teachers may do well, or math people may do well in basketball. Think about it. He was a 7th grade math teacher at Natchez High School. That's where he got his start, and didn't play basketball. Go watch Richard Williams play basketball sometime. You know what I'm talking about. It's bad. But he just was so cerebral. But that's how it was. It was analytical. It was cerebral. But yeah, at Final Four. And he was sitting there because he's a Mississippi guy. I mean, he knows the state of Mississippi, the heritage of Mississippi, the experienced losing. People want to know why the Mississippi State-Ole Miss rivalry is different than Auburn-Alabama rivalries. It's because they don't respect each other overall, because they've never won in football. Is it not the truth? I mean, it really is. I mean, there's not the respect factor. Coach Kublik talks about that all the time. We would talk about it. He said, man, Auburn-Alabama game football was sorry, I said football in the basketball tip-off meeting. But he said, I was a football guy too. But he, like, literally there's something to that we got those hats. And they handed it, and that man's face turned, and you know how red-faced he still is. I saw him at Hall's Chop House the other night, and I was like, Coach, man, you all right? You know, just red. And he said, this, and in front of the whole nation, said, this is where you still don't respect us. Because I can't tell you how many people say, oh, yeah, you went to Mississippi, or, yeah, when's Mississippi? It ain't Mississippi. People don't call Alabama Auburn, or Auburn, Alabama, and I know it might be, but that's a respect thing, you know, and I think that's one of the things that, to your point, Coach Williams, all that attention to detail, all that yelling at us, all that weird way he had about him interacting with people developed a toughness in us that he made us believe that we were disrespected. And I think that was just kind of the Lord's ironic way of just putting a stamp on it. Now, they did get us new hats, and you know, I still got that one. I wonder if some Ole Miss fan would, what is that? Because I don't want it. Because I don't want it. I don't want the Mississippi one.
You got to hang on to that. That's special.
The Mississippi State one.
Now, your coach, you already shared an anecdote about Mike Anderson. Now, before Buckyball, before Nate Oates and threes and layups and nothing in between, there was the fastest 40 minutes in basketball that Mike Anderson brought to Birmingham with UAB. What was that week of preparation like for you guys? And again, now he's in the NCAA tournament for the first time as a head coach.
Well, Coach Anderson, after he fussed us out at Outback, he was very, very just kind of calm. He kind of oozed confidence. We weren't pressured. We didn't feel any extra anxiety outside of just knowing that it could be over in a couple of days. That week of practice was exactly the same as the weeks prior. He was just comes in, he kind of laughs and claps, and he's drinking. You know, he didn't drink coffee in the morning, but he'd have hot cocoa, and he would always come down with a cup. In the afternoon, he'd have a cup of cocoa with him sometimes, and so. I just remember him telling all of us, like, we're fine. Like, we're going to do what we do. No one in the country plays like us, and we're going to show them how we play, and they don't have time to prepare. There's no way they can prepare for us. Like, we're going to do, we never focused on the other team. Like, I know you think in terms now, you'll get the scouting report. We'd go over stuff for sure. And then about maybe halfway through, he said, I forget that. We're going to do what we do. And then he would tell whichever assistant had the scout, you know, grab a seat, and then he would start talking about us. So he kept the focus on us. He kept the focus on our energy and on our effort. And I think it worked. That first game against Washington, I mean, that was a no defense being played. It wasn't a lot of defense in a 102. Anytime anybody scores 100 points, there's not a lot of D being played. But he was, even during that, even in the midst of, you know, and great coaches, they find a way to stay calm when it's, you know, going all over the place. And he was calm during that whole time. And practice was the exact same.
Richard, what about Mark Gottfried? As you said, it was the 5th of 5 straight NCAA trips for Alabama. A couple of years earlier, they'd been to the Elite Eight, first team in school history to do that. Still the only team in school history to do that. What was that preparation week like? Mark, of course, had played in the NCAA tournament and got into the Sweet 16 his senior year in '87.
Well, I think for Coach Gottfried, that was a very exciting moment for him because that 5 straight NCAA tournaments matched the most that Alabama had ever had at its span. I think that was important for him as a head coach and the staff. I do remember as soon as we were watching the selection show and we were picked and everybody was celebrating, I just remember it was almost like immediately after the congratulations happened, it was like a powwow of the coaching staff. I remember assistant coach Philip Pearson and everyone else immediately going right to what their potential scouting reports would be. So the celebration happens quickly, but then it's like, okay, we're in. It's a relief. You're happy. But we have to get to work because this potentially, we have one matchup, but you also have on a quick turnaround, potentially 2 other teams on the bracket before you go home before the weekend. So you know that you have maybe 1-2 practices on your home court before you're getting ready to leave. So they had to prepare for 3 teams. The practice at that point in the year, and it's probably that way for most of the teams, when you get to March, the practicing is almost over. Like, you know, you are what you are, you're doing what you're doing, so you're trying to remain fresh, you're trying to remain positive, but there might be some little things that you're gonna scout out about what a team does and what you have to take away. But the physical aspect, the running, the very hard part of it, I found that was over at that part of the season, and for me as a freshman big man, I was glad, I was glad the running was over. I was done with that, I didn't want any more suicides. I was glad, I needed to be March all year long. That's what I need. Just the light practices. We can watch the film. We can do the walkthroughs. That's how I like to learn how to play the game. And then we'll be fine and be fresh for the game day. So that was something that I admire, I remember the most about the preparation of it and just being a grind because we didn't play the 102 to 100 style. We won our game, I think 62 to 59 or something like that. So a little bit different type of style, but the preparation started immediately after the celebration.
Actually, you beat Marquette 90 to 85.
Did we?
The UCLA game was 62 to 59.
Oh, wow.
When you guys missed a 3, that would have tied it and sent it over.
Well, that's John Felique scoring. A guy averaging 7-8 points all season, goes for 31, hitting 7-8 threes, but that's March Madness for you.
Yes.
And it just happens. You don't know. There's any team you look on this bracket, you might think that it's going to be this team going to the Final Four. You do not know. I mean, there's going to be some kid like, Mo Finley at UAB, that someone who doesn't know who's a Kentucky fan who's going to go out there and he's motivated and ready to play you and he's going to bust you up on national television and let you know how good he and his team are. So that's the beauty of March, and it happens every single game, and you see those upsets, and you have to be prepared for that as a player if you are the bigger team coming in with a reputation.
Okay, let's kind of go a little rapid fire here. You're going to go last. Is there a favorite play? Those 2 NCAA tournament games, went over Marquette, close loss to UCLA. Maybe it involved you, maybe it involved a teammate. Maybe it involved another game in the arena that you saw. I don't know. Just a play that stands out in your memory.
Oh, wow. For me, I remember back at the UCLA game, and we were in warm-ups all the time. We were practicing these full-court shots. And I had pretty good, if anyone remembers that play, I was a really good outlet passer. That was something that I always did very well. I could throw it with the quick twitch all the way to the end of practice. And we were playing in the practice shoot-around, and I hit 2 or 3 of them from free throw end to the other and making them, just knocking them down. We ended up losing the game. It was a 1-possession game, but right before the half, we get the rebound. Ronald Steele gets the rebound. We're like, I don't know, it's a tie game or close to it. And I'm asking Ron, pass it to me. He flips it to me, and I flick it up probably from about 75 feet, and that thing just rims right around and goes off. And, of course, we lose the game by 2 points. And all I thought about was, man, if I hit that full court shot, I would have been an NCAA tournament legend to win that. If that would have went in, if that would have gone in, I would have been a legend. It would have been shown every year on the loop. So it's like I wish that shot had gone in, and that would have been a memory of a lifetime. But
you'd have been right there with Christian Laettner.
I would have been right there with him.
Bart.
I mean, there's a bunch of them. That run was so many, but there was a play that happened against Cincinnati that was the epitome of our team. It was, I don't remember who the offensive player was. I think it might have been Keith Legree, who was the defensive player of the year in the conference, that Coach Williams told me 70 times, hey, that's the defensive. If you put the ball in front, hey, that's the, of course, first time I go in, right in front of him going. I remember that. But I remember at the end of the game, they were trying to come back, and like we always got ahead of people. And that was the thing about, like, when we got ahead of you, we were going to grind you out. You weren't going to take the ball from us. We weren't going to turn it over. We were going to make free throws, and so we were difficult to deal with. But I remember we had this huge deal back when you could take charges in basketball.
I'm glad that's out of the game, too, by the way.
Yeah, I know, right?
Get the little guys out of the way.
I know,
Just
I know.
Tripping up people. Get that
I know.
out of the game.
But I mean, I would have gone in there. I would have gone in there with basketball. You didn't go in there back then.
I would have made you feel it, too.
I know.
I'll let you know.
And that's why all these scars. That's why these scars here. I talked about the basketball, and I should have played something else. That's why. But I remember we had a thing with the charges. Like who was the team lead for charges was a huge deal because that was a game-winning play. And the one additive to the NCAA tournaments and SEC tournaments and state championships that people plan to win, it's those 50-50 game-winning plays, those charges, those rebounds, those just out-of-bounds plays that I went a little harder and the other guy couldn't get the ball, that we get extra possession, offensive rebounds, those type of things. But I remember Whit Hughes just literally taking one for the team in the chest at the middle of the top of the key on defense in Rupp Arena. And he and Darryl were tied for the lead going into that game in charges. And Darryl had taken one and he had taken one. It was like 2 minutes to go. Whit takes the charge and Darryl comes running from the other end of the court and just jumps on top of him and just hugs him right there. And that was it. Like, Darryl was celebrating Whit overtaking him in the charge battle. Now, you talk about a team thing, that's how it was. And Coach Williams talks about that moment more so that was the epitome of our team because it was a bunch of guys from a lot of different places, from a lot of different backgrounds that, it just, I don't know, somehow we meshed, and we didn't mesh early, but to your point, we meshed late, and when we did, that moment to me was as good as any of the tournament.
I saved you for last. Not many people get a chance to hit a game-winning shot in the NCAA tournament, let alone against the #1 overall seed from the University of Kentucky. Walk us through the play. You're down 1. I don't think you guys called timeout. Before that, my memory's a little hazy on that one. What do you remember
He remembers that bucket.
about that mid-range jumper, which so many coaches say is verboten now? They don't want you to shoot them at all. Well, a mid-range jumper got UAB into the Sweet 16.
I couldn't survive playing this only a three, only a layup. I think it just takes your natural instincts out. You pump fake, and I'm going all over. Like, again, this guy's there, and I'm not going down there either, so.
Don't come down.
Yeah, I'm not coming.
Just letting y'all know.
I want the pull-up, so I'm not coming down there. But prior to the last shot, Coach Anderson, he called a play for me to get a 3 in the corner, like a little baseline screen thing we used to run. And I got a 3 in the corner. And to me, I thought, all right, that's going to seal it. Like in my mind, I thought that's enough right there. And then I come back on the other end, and they have about maybe 2 or 3 attempts at it. And lo and behold, I miss a block out. Like I'm watching, and the guy that I'm supposed to be boxing out tip dunks it. Kalina Azubuike. He dunked it back, and I remember thinking, oh, like he's going to kill me when we get over to the bench. And so we come back out, and I think we do have a timeout. We come back out, and we try to run that exact same play, and it didn't work. And I ended up getting it back at the top of the key. And prior to the game, Coach Anderson, against Washington, I rushed. I was rushing a little bit, pressing a little bit, because it's your first time out there. You're trying to make something happen. And I remember him saying, if you pump fake, they'll bite on it, because everyone knows you're going to take jump shots. You pump fake, they'll bite on it. And I worked on that probably, I don't know, I couldn't even imagine the times that I've done that at practice and on my own. And so when the ball came back to me, like that was my natural thing, just, okay, he's running at me, I'm going to pump fake. And it was it. Like the only thing I remember it going through the net, and I remember thinking, all right, get ready for defense, because you just messed up on defense. You missed the box out. And he took me out. He didn't give me a chance to not box out the next possession. He took me out of the game. He subbed me out for defense, and I said, well, okay. And I went to the bench, and I prayed, and I just waited and listened for the crowd. And I knew we won when the crowd didn't erupt, because it was such a pro-Kentucky. We were in Ohio, and so, I mean, the whole place was just, filled with Kentucky fans. And so, a lot of people said, man, like, what are you, like, you were over there praying? You didn't even watch us. I didn't watch. I said, if you're, in the biggest moment of your life, like, I got to go to a source that's a little bigger than me. I can't focus on one of my teammates. So, who better to call on than your Lord and Savior?
Man.
So I literally prayed right there on national television. And I knew we won when I didn't hear that crowd erupting. After that, it was, everything you could ever hope and dream of as a kid, making a shot that wins, a tournament game. And so there's probably not a week that goes by I don't see someone or meet someone who mentions something about our team or about Kentucky. And I'm very thankful, very fortunate. I feel very blessed to have had a chance to participate and to do something, make a shot that people will remember.
And while that was 1A, play 1B in that game, many of you have seen it. This is especially relevant for you young ladies. UAB had a pair of twins, Ronell and Donnell Taylor. And at one point in the game, and I don't remember if it was a loose ball or a rebound, but Ronell, with his back, he's facing the Kentucky basket. All right? He's facing the Kentucky basket. The UAB basket is that way, 75 feet away. He grabs the ball. He throws it with both hands over his head. His twin, Donnell, is streaking to the other end. He hits Donnell in stride, catches the ball, and throws down a dunk. And that's how I tell the twins apart. Donnell dunked it. Ronell passed it. So I want to see things like that from you at Georgia Southern.
Can I share something
yes,
about?
Please.
So here's the thing. So Ronell and Donnell, they were very highly recruited JUCO guys, JUCO All-Americans. And the first couple of weeks of practice, I remember thinking, man, do they only see each other? They only throw to each other. Listen, I love them. I don't want you to be Ronell and Donnell. Not the first week. Be the Ronell and Donnell that I had a chance to play with in March. And so when he did it, and he threw it, I knew to myself, he's throwing it to his brother. Like, that's the only person he's going to throw it to. And to be honest, it was a very important play because it was 2-on-1 fast break. In Kentucky, they were making their run. And when he stole it and threw it over his head, I was on the bench. And I remember just jumping up and down. And that's the beauty of March. No one cares who scores. You don't care about anything except advancing. And, you got guys over the course of the season, they're worried about their numbers. They're worried about stats. You'll see people locking arms. Everybody's leaning on at the end of the bench, or end of the seats. And, we were all so excited because that helped us. But two, we knew for sure, regardless of the outcome, we're going to be on SportsCenter tonight, man. That's going to make SportsCenter for sure.
Back then, that's a big.
That was the play of the week on SportsCenter. All right, let's take we could talk all day, obviously, with these three guys and their memories and what they've achieved in basketball in this state and beyond. Any quick questions from anyone for our panelists? Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Well, they were sitting there. Coach Bartow, he didn't talk to me until a couple of days later, but they were sitting right there.
Yeah, so you got a pitch from both of those. Can you explain the differences in those pitches?
Well, Coach Scott actually gave me the pitch for Alabama, and he didn't talk to me that day. But as I was walking back to the Sheraton, we shared an elevator, and he talked to me a little bit about Alabama basketball and how much they valued guys that could shoot the basketball and could score the basketball. And unfortunately, he didn't call me back. He just kind of gave me the pitch in the elevator, and it was over.
Our loss, huh? Our loss.
Well, I think it worked out for everybody involved. But
Well, Mo, you've been put back in the evaluation period right now, and we'll get back to it.
Well, but Coach Bartow, a couple of days later, I'm sitting in my high school, and my high school coach calls me in, and he says, hey, the coach wants to talk to you on the phone. I was like, who is it? He said, well, it's the coach at UAB. And so we talked for a little bit, and at the time, I had 0 offers. Like, I had never spoken to a college coach outside of just being at basketball camp. No one had reached out to me about anything outside of, George Brooks, who was the head coach of Meridian Community College. I was going to go to, that's probably where I was going to go. And, Coach Bartow, he talked to me for, a few, not even a long time. It was probably the easiest recruit he ever had in his life. It wasn't even a long time. And I had, thought about it for maybe 30 minutes. And I was like, okay, like if they offer, I'm saying yes.
The rest is history. John.
I'll start. One thing, like Mo said, in sports, I mean, it's a team sport, but you have to understand the human element is that you want to succeed yourself individually. And throughout the course of the season, everybody has individual goals. Everybody wants to score. You want stats. You have your parents in your ear, your friends in your ear saying, you know, I think you should shoot that ball more. I think you should score a few more points. So when you check in the game, you need to look for your shot. And when you get closer to tournament play, as opposed to mid-season, which should be equally as important because it controls, you know, getting a regular season championship or even getting better seeding. If it's game 15, you'll find that your teammates, and maybe even you at times, might not be as focused on the team goals. But when you get to tournament play, you automatically realize nothing else matters. You might have been scoring 12 points per average per game, and it's like you are fine if you score 7 and get a win. You might have a goal that you want to average 20 points a game or something, and, you know, all of a sudden, that's not a goal anymore. So the mentality, it's amazing how it shifts immediately from the regular season to when you get to the tournament, that you lose this selfish, you know, self-preservation mode that's just in you naturally as a player. Now, everybody wants to preach team, but I'm just going to tell you, these guys know, you have your own agenda within, it's a game within the game. You know, we all talk about it, you know, as a scorer and everywhere, you know, it's scorers and shooters, like, we know where our spots are and where we're going to shoot a shot. But in the tournament, you're realizing what's a good shot, what's a bad shot, what's a good situation, because it's like, you know, what they've said, a turnover here, a 50-50 ball loss, a missed assignment defensively. A bad shot is giving a possession away to the other team, and that one possession that you just give it away can be the difference in your team advancing. So that's something that just clicks in the mentality to be selfless when tournament time comes on.
Bart? For me, along those same lines, every bit of that was just great. I think it's twofold. Attitude reflect leadership, Captain. That's from a very famous movie, from Remember the Titans. And I think that's the truth on the level in the locker room from the players and also from the coaches. I think coaches make so many mistakes sometimes, especially in high school, by not defining roles, you know, and like, Coach Williams used to tell Quentin Reese, not Quentin Reese, excuse me, not Quentin Reese. Quentin Reese is QB's dad, my friend Quentin Reese. Quentin Smith, that I played with a couple years at State. Poor Quentin would be wide open, standing there at the elbow. Coach Williams, no, right before he'd shoot it. No, and would just stop the drill. He said, son, how many times I got to tell you there's a reason you're open? Wow, that kind of makes sense. So the point with that is having those defined roles to relate it to the tournament. We got a hold of a scouting report that UConn had for us, and they brought it in after.
How'd you get that?
After the game.
Oh, okay, all right.
Well, it's Mississippi State. Rick Stansbury was there. Does anybody surprise anybody?
There's your answer.
You know, but it was after the game they gave it to us. It was actually before we played Cincinnati, but we were all wanting to know what they were saying about us, you know? And so it gets to me, and it was very, very, very short. We'll turn it over every possession, can make open shots, plays hard, but looks for 25, Eric Dampier, and 32, Dante Jones, every time he passes it. So, like, it's that defined, like, my role was to come in, not turn it over, make open shots, throw the ball to your 2 first-round picks. You know, but everybody has one. His role was different than that. His role was to go get 20 and 15. You know, his role was to score, you know, and on different teams as my role progressed, that could have been. On that team, I was supposed to play 11 minutes a game. And I was supposed to make sure that Bull was okay for his 2 minutes in the first half, and I was supposed to make sure that Darryl was okay. And then if it was a close game, I was going to be in the game because I could shoot free throws. Unlike, I would have played on this Mississippi State team late in games because they can't shoot free throws. But that would be the defining roles. The leaders have to be leaders, and you can't just flip that switch. No. That is earned, that in the locker room from teammates. And it's typical. For us, it was Darryl Wilson and Russell Walters. I mean, yeah. But the leaders, their attitude has to be from the top down, but then the coaches have to have defined roles, and everybody's got to be on the same team.
All right, as I said, we could go on all day, but let's wrap it up. Let's fast forward. Oh, let's get one more. Yes, ma'am. You read my mind, Sheila.
I got a lot of shoes. They're for sale if you want now.
Hey, y'all weighs a number, girl.
You wear size 18? Okay, I'm going to split it in half and divide it and then a little something.
They're not J's. We did wear Nike. Mine actually would probably be worth a little bit more since they were played in the Final Four. So
Hello.
They're in Winfield High School, and I don't go up there much. But I can help you out if you want to get them. But no, a lot of J's, but ours were Nikes. Do you want to do the pick first? Me? You want me to go?
Well, first of all, do you have the shoes or anything from that?
Yes.
Yeah, you got to.
I got all my crap. So I kept my shoes.
Gotta keep it.
I kept my shoes from that game. So I kept my shoes. I kept the undershirt that I wore underneath the jersey. And so when you go to Portsmouth, you have to bring your own warm-ups. And so there was a kid there at Portsmouth, and he was just begging, "Can I have your this?" I said, "I'm just gonna tell you the truth, man. I'm not giving you my stuff. Now I'll do whatever I can." I said, I had nephews at the time, so I can't give you my jerseys and my stuff, man. But I kept it all just in case one day, I don't know, I had the wherewithal to not throw it away and not give it away. And every now and again, I'll go down and look at my shoes and think, man, we did something really special, and those are the shoes we were wearing. I can't believe technology is so much better now, because those shoes would hurt your feet like crazy if you had to put them on today and play.
Did y'all keep those little pennants that they gave every round? Did y'all get that when every round they give you
I've
an
got every one of those,
thing
yes.
to go to the first, second, third
Yes,
round?
different color.
You got all of that stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of cool things they give out in the tournament time.
I got a crazy story about this real quick. Just one of the weirdest things that happened. So back then we wore Russell. The Russell was our athletic supplier, and then our shoes were Nike. I don't know. I guess the statute's up on all this stuff. There was a contract change. Okay, think about, when you got to the tournament, you went and on the bed there was all that gear in that bag. Right. That's what you're talking about, just swag everywhere, right? And so I saw this bag, and it was from Champion. We signed a contract midweek with Champion, and that they were going to be our news, so we got all this gear, all this stuff. We wore Russell pants with a Champion logo on them. They didn't have time to change out the pants. So it was a Russell champ. Now, can you imagine in today's time if that was the case? Like, what would happen?
Make you take it off there on the floor.
Right. I mean, it's like they would, wouldn't they? There's no way. But but the point is, like, the gear, the swag, all that stuff. It's a big business. And so, actually, a personal, like, a lot of my stuff, and this is kind of sad. Like, the Boar's Butt in Winfield burned down. I don't know if a lot of people knew that, but that was like a restaurant to where it was like where I really grew up. My dad worked there. But almost all of my stuff except those shoes, we did not have those shoes and my jersey in there, and everything else, a lot of my stuff burned up. But those pins, so it's funny that she would say that, you would say the pins, so that's it. Yeah, all those memories are great.
Yeah, I had a lot of stuff too. Just like Mo said, his wife was trying to tell him he's got to get rid of his old stuff. But for me, when I left college and played professionally for so long, it was my parents that told me just last year that I had to come get all their junk out of their house. I've been sitting there for almost 20 years. So I got a ton of stuff, but you're going to have to dig through the boxes to find a lot of it. So, but as a ball player, you got to keep it, because those are moments that you can never relive. And if you get a simple moment just to touch it and see that stuff again, it just brings back a memory of yourself and the people and everybody that you shared that moment with. And it's just something that is just so special, and that's makes what's tournament time, to me, the most special time of the basketball season.
And if you got a wife that won't make you throw it out, you got to hold on to it.
Got a good one.
I am dangerously close to having to run a storage unit, because my wife is, she's over it.
So if I'd have thrown all that stuff out, things might have worked out differently for me. Then that's what you're telling me.
Possibly.
That's what both of y'all telling me. Golly, man, y'all have been good back in the day.
Okay, and all three of these guys, I'm sure you all know, are giving back to the game now in different ways as broadcasters For one thing, Bart, I was so pleased to be able to share a desk with you at the high school state finals. He's the most knowledgeable man about Alabama high school basketball, every classification, girls and boys. Richard, congratulations. He was Alabama's legend at the SEC tournament. You see him on the SEC network. And then Mo, I heard you on the radio from Fort Worth during the the AAC tournament. I got to fast forward. And again, that's the kind of gentleman they are. So give us as Sheila said, you don't have to give us a quick thought. Give us a champion, give us a Final Four, give us a surprise team, whatever you want to do. Whoever wants to start.
I haven't picked either. I'll start just kind of what my gut tells me, what I've seen over the course of the season. I'm always going to go with my people. I go UAB to win games that nobody thinks we'll win. I remember 20 years ago, nobody expected us to beat Kentucky, so there's no reason for me to sit up here and think that we can't make some noise. I think the top team, the best team, I think is Houston. I love the way they play. I think if they're able to get healthy and get bounced back from the conference championship game that they lost, they got embarrassed by Iowa State, but I really like Houston. I like the way they play, just a physical defensive team. You know, you're going to be, if you can guard and defend, that is going to be, one of the biggest things. If you got good guard play, which they do. So that's my pick if my team does not win. I say Houston.
Well,
Richard?
I would say, I do have Alabama in my bracket to go to the Sweet 16. I think they do have a tough draw. Don't believe the names that you see with Charleston and St. Mary's and whatnot in thinking that they're going to have an easy run. College basketball has changed. The names on the front of the jersey do not matter. Players transfer, they're older, and the older, more mature players you have out there, and particularly the guard play, as they get more and more reps to play meaningful pick-and-roll action, it only makes them tougher in March. So I think Alabama can do that and get to the Sweet 16. To me, I'm looking at my dark horse get to the Final Four. I hate to say it. I think Auburn might get there. I think they can beat UConn. UConn is a really good team. But Auburn, after looking at them this week in Nashville, I've been saying it all year long. They have balance. They have the only interior play that is played in the SEC with Janai Broome and Jalen Williams. They have a lot of guards who really can get going. If they can shoot the ball well with the depth that they have at the guard position, and if they can defend, then they can play, and they seem motivated. My pick that I have to win it, though, is I'm going to go a little bit different, probably because of big man. I'm going to go with Purdue. And the reason, because you got a guy who's 7 foot, almost 300 pounds, and the way that he can dominate a game. I'm talking about like 24 points, 14 rebounds and whatnot, blocking shots, more agile, and the factor that they have losing in the 1 versus 16 game last year to Fairleigh Dickinson. I think that team has to be embarrassed. They have to be motivated. I'm going to be watching them to see if they can make it in the Final Four.
Bart?
Toughest bracket is not without question is the East with UConn and the one Auburn, their draw. That is just, that's a bloodbath. I mean, that is tough to get through that gauntlet. I still think UConn's the best team in the country. I still think they win it. I like Houston as well, but James Madison is the one team that I saw them this year, and I did a lot of those games in the Sun Belt, and I said whoever the Sun Belt Conference champion was, I was going to look at their bracket and ride them. If it wasn't Houston, I would like James Madison to possibly go further if they were in the Midwest or the West. But I'll go Houston there. And then I like Creighton because I don't trust Purdue and I don't trust Tennessee. I just don't. And I'm not to the point of, but until they do it, same thing with Rick Barnes. Until they do it, if you can't win national championship with Kevin Durant, come on, man. I mean, like, seriously. And that guy at Tennessee plays, he's not Kevin Durant, I'm not saying it. But the 3-level scoring, the ability to score away from the basket, going left, and to get to the free throw line, that's the biggest key. Tennessee Dalton Connect can free throw line you through the tournament and put you 35 or 40 a game. I like Creighton, as I said as well, though, in that bracket. And then who am I missing? Houston. There's one more. Carolina. It's the Carolina bracket. Anybody could win that one. Yeah. I mean, I think. Should any Mississippi State fan be worried? Because I think we got a great matchup against Michigan State. I love that matchup. I mean, I love our physicality against them. I'm not scared of North Carolina. I mean, they're probably the weakest one. I don't know if that's the case. So I think those three would be mine. It would be UConn, Houston, Creighton, and then pick your one you want in the West, wherever Alabama. I mean,
Yeah,
right?
there's a good
Whoever.
pick. Go ahead.
I mean, no, I didn't pick them.
Pick 'em.
I was just saying.
Pick
like,
'em.
They need you in there blocking shots, man. They don't have that.
We didn't get past the second round now. They might need
Yeah,
a little
I
bit
know.
more than me.
But no, I think it's wide open in the West.
All right. Sanford over Kansas
Yeah,
on Thursday
okay.
night. On Thursday. On Friday, Alabama wins, UAB wins, Auburn wins. So in the second round, and we need to get together, we need to charter a plane. Salt Lake City,
I got a guy.
Sanford in the second round beats Gonzaga, gets to the Sweet 16. In Spokane, Alabama wins, gets to the Sweet 16. Why did they have to match up Auburn and UAB? Again, we got to have a talk with those guys. It's going to be a war, but I think Auburn's got a little more, and I just wish they were playing different opponents. Listen, Mo Finley, Richard Hendrix, Bart Hyche, we thank you for the memories you made for so many of us in what you did and what you still do for the sport of basketball and the state of Alabama. We applaud you guys. Thank you for being here today.
Kevin, I want to thank you real quick though, for what you do for basketball in the state, and whether it be college or high school. That week was as fun. Last couple weeks as I've had with anybody, but like I just want to shout you out too, like because you can't get up here and talk basketball without somebody directing you as well as this. So
Well, thank you. Thank you. All right. Let's go watch some madness. And we'll be back next week. With Andy Kennedy, if he can get back in time after that second round game against Auburn.